You have this desire to compete, as drag racers all do. They want to get out there. They want to test themselves. But this time, it's going to be the melding of man and machine, which is different for you. Before, it's like relying upon yourself, your muscles, your brain, your tendons to react, the fibers in your muscles. Now you're activating a lever. You're doing a sequence. You're controlling a car. You're feeling the weight. How is that going to be different?
At the end of the day, it's still you and you and that guy on the other side of in the other lane, staging up to that and executing the launch of that vehicle in appropriate time, keeping it in line and getting it down that quarter mile as fast as you can get it and being successful. So in many, many ways, there's a lot of similarities to the individual combative sports. Obviously, we're fighting in a different way. In many ways, we're fighting ourselves. But so are we every time we walk out in the center of that wrestling mat or up in that cage. What's going on between your ears is way more important than anything physical that's happening. And so many people lose the second they start walking out that tunnel. And I think a lot of that same thing is true when you're staging that car and getting ready to launch.
Certainly. So you mentioned Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. I saw a post that you guys made on your X handle from Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Looked like Vegas. Tell me a little bit about that experience. Frank is a special kind of person, period. A champ, one of our 50 greatest drivers, and he does a lot with the mental side. But what about the actual driving side, like the car, the feeling? Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a challenge, honestly. The first time ever in a car, and that I think is probably a 9 or 10 second car. The power is all there, all the procedure and everything that I needed to experience and I need to learn and continue to learn was wrapped up in getting in that car, learning how to put on all that equipment, the HOD, all that stuff, the trans brake, the line hold, keeping the car straight and finding the groove in the lane, doing a burnout, using that line hold, using your left foot for the brake and the right foot on that gas pedal, figuring out how that trans brake works and getting used to watching those lights and figuring out when to take your hand off that and not pull your foot off the pedal at the same time, which is a common mistake for a lot of folks and myself included. So coming up with tactics and ways to get through that procedure so that you're not only getting it down properly, but you're doing it as fast as you can do it.
That is exciting, Tiss. It's exciting. I don't want to say I was born into drag racing. I wasn't, but I was definitely born into fandom of drag racing, and I've driven some cars. And watching you go through this process I know it's going to be so exciting for a lot of people. Tell us a little bit about the team you've partnered with. And I know Randy Glady from Skag is a big part of this. And I know we're going to unveil the look and the scheme of the car at the Gerber Collision and Glass Route 66 Nationals. At least that's the plan. But talk about how that came together and the team that is, giving you the seat.
Well, one of my best friends is Ben Carey, played in Savage Garden and Lifehouse. We've been friends for over 15 years now. He kept telling me, dude, you need to come to the drag races. This is so intense and so amazing. You're going to love it. So 10 years ago, he took me to my first race in Pomona. Got to meet Tony Schumacher and Ron Capps. They shared a pit at that time, the Army Dragster. Obviously, I gravitated toward that Army Dragster right away just because of the Army. And then Ron Capps is such an amazing, nice guy and such a great racer. They welcomed me with open arms. Got to sit in their cars, be there when they're changing the motors out between runs and just seeing the whole process. And it was mind-blowing. Got to stand at the starting line with Ron Capps at his first run that day. And it snaps your eyes wide open. 24,000 horsepower taken off on that starting line is just unbelievable. You feel it in your guts, in your organs. It's an amazingly intense thing. And it was a really cool place to watch that run. And then, after the run, he did great. And he's like, man, you should try the box. Go up and sit with my family. My wife and my mom are up there. It's a whole different perspective from up there. So that's what we did. We went up and sat in the box. His second, watched him tear the car down, put it all back together, drag it back to the starting line for that second run. He gets about 1 second into that run, and his car blows up. And I'm like, holy hell, I just met this guy, and I just watched him burn down the track. I had dinner with him that night. I mean, it literally blew my mind that he made ESPN that day from the fireball going down the track. And here I am having dinner with the guy that I just watched blow up. It was an amazing experience. And I've been a fan, an absolute fan ever since, not only of racing, but of Ron and Tony, and still talk to those guys all the time. And they're certainly excited about this opportunity and want to help any way they can and give me any insight they can give me. And obviously both those guys are driving at a much higher level than I'm driving or hope to drive, at least in this first time stepping out there. But it was an incredible experience. Now, fast forward 10 years, Ben has gotten into, he's formed American Racing Series. He's doing the Nitro Series, Legends Nitro Series with NHRA. And they approached me about getting involved in a new circuit. And the guys from Street Outlaws were trying to form a new drag circuit, and they were looking for new, celebrity type drivers. And so they asked if I'd be interested in driving a car. And I'm like, well, hell, why not? That just sounds amazing. I'm a huge fan of the sport. I love cars. And so we were trying to put this deal together. That took me back to Pomona just a month and a half ago, again. But now I'm looking with different eyes. Now I have a whole different idea in mind, not just going to be a fan and watch the races. We paired up with Nathan from Dominate Racing out of Phoenix, and he's been in Pro Mod for a long time. He's a great crew chief. He's got a great car. This was the car that they were talking about having me drive in this new circuit. Now, the new circuit looked like it was heading towards a reality TV show, and I've done several of those, and I feel like I've done more of those than I probably need to at this stage of things. And I wasn't all that keen on being involved in a reality TV show, to be honest. But Nathan's taking me around to Pomona. We're meeting a bunch of teams that he used to work with or work for. One of those was this Blue Force team that is racing with Randy and Skag. And while I'm in their pit area talking to a bunch of these team guys that Nathan knows, Randy comes in and he's hanging out there with all those guys that are racing for him. And I end up having an hour-long conversation with Randy and his values and who he is and what he stands for and what Skag stands for and what he uses his marketing for and how he treats not only all the vendors that represent Skag on a national level, but all of his drivers and the family that they seem to be. And it really touched me. It really moved me. He was an amazing guy. And the conversation went from, I'm not really interested to, well, what's your budget? And that's it. And it kind of took off from there. And then obviously coming here to Vegas, which is where I live, I got to hook up and watch Randy and see, again, meet a bunch of his vendors, sit right there at the start line with a bunch of the folks that he's working with. Again, went back to a bunch of those same crews that are racing for Skag, and the conversation got very serious. And he was genuinely interested in helping and sponsoring me and Nathan to get into Pro Mod. It's one of the divisions he's not in. He's got 5 cars. I'll be his 6th car in the racing circuits at the different levels and the various classes. And we're having a legitimate conversation, and we end up having a handshake deal. He's like, yeah, let's do this. And I'm all in. I'm excited about the opportunity. He's excited about the opportunity. Going to put the new Jackal and Tree Frog on the car, and let's get into Pro Mod. So we're off and running. I'm trying to learn as much as I can learn, get my feet under me, my butt under me, if you will. I think you drive these cars with your butt, not your feet. But yeah. It's been very, very interesting, very enlightening, very challenging. And those are all things I love. And he has been amazingly supportive. Nathan's very, very excited and I think rejuvenated. And we're getting into racing. We're going to do this.